we're doing the exact same thing that we're doing as a regular home inspection. But the value that the seller is gonna get out of it is going to be well worth the $400 that they spend on it. We're transparent as a company. If you'd like to see our prices, I have a price sheet that can be electronically sent to anyone. If you do a 4-point Winman, which is not required as a pre-listing inspection, that's what the buyer is gonna be interested in, because it doesn't benefit a person doing a listing to have a 4-point Winman. It's not worth the money. But you can add that on any home inspection for $125 and you get both of those insurance reports. We're a one-stop shop. If you need a termite inspection done by others, the state licensed WDO, it can be scheduled at the same time. Where's Nabil? Did he just walk out?
Who? Najib?
Najib? Oh, there you are. Okay, great. You've used us in the past, and you're able to call in and just...
Oh yeah, the communication was awesome.
We get things done. But another feature that we do have that's going to help everyone is we have an app. Everyone has an app these, well, not everyone. We have an app. Not all home inspection companies are made the same. Our app, in the last couple of days, 2 of my agents just called me back and wrote me emails. Love, love, love this. And the app, once the inspection report is completed, you can go into your dashboard with all of your inspections in it, and you can click on that particular property, and you can create a repair addendum. The repair addendum is going to look exceptionally professional. It's going to look like a mini report. Only the information you want going into it will go into it. There's a cover page with a picture of the property, the date, the address, everything's on there. And then if there are 4 or 5 items that are problematic for your buyer, those items are identified, and you can click whether you want it repaired, replaced, or a cash credit. Simple. Present it to the listing agent if you're the buyer's agent, and then you continue with how you get that transaction completed. The mobile app also lets you book and schedule inspections 24/7. I get emails in the middle of the night. I hear my phone go ding. Some realtors up at 2 o'clock in the morning, they either just put a contract together or just got accepted, and they're scheduling their home inspection. You can choose the date, the time, the inspector, just that simple. If you're out in the field, you can check the app and you can find out if an inspector is busy at a certain time, and you know that your favorite inspector, if it's Andrew, Eileen, Don, Steve, Hank, whoever it is, we have a team. Oh, he's out of the field, yes. Hank has graduated himself out of the field. He's not working.
Promoted myself.
He's working on the business, not in the business.
Right, and for Grayson, we will ask that you try to choose Steve first, because he's, Rafi and I decided Steve would be the main inspector for this company. And then if he's not available, then any other inspectors would be there. But Rafi knows Steve, and Steve does all the investment properties for you.
We have 3 out of our 4 inspectors are CMIs, that they're certified master inspectors. I'm in my commercial real estate mode. They're certified master inspectors, which means they've done over 1,000 inspections. They've got 3 years of field time, and it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and the education, the required education.
To be a CMI. And we just brought on another apprentice. So as as the demand continues to increase, we'll be able to fill that demand. We can get an inspection scheduled for you in 48 to 72 hours, and we turn the reports around by the end of the next business day. I can send that dashboard app to you, to anyone who'd like that, and you can play around with it, you can use it. If you haven't done an inspection with us yet, there's nothing for you to play around and use. You can upload your picture, you can update your picture.
The reason we ask for your pictures to be in our system is because anytime we send a client an email, your picture goes at the top of the email that goes out with your picture and your contact information. So it's almost like, hey, here's your realtor, and we send 1-year emails out and just say how things are going. And so every time we send that follow-up email to them, your picture's on there with your information, so it keeps in mind who their realtor was.
Nice.
It's branding. It's free branding. If you check us out online, you'll find out that we met our goal this past year. We did exceed 300 5-star Google reviews. So people are talking about us. We believe in a radiant experience. We're not gonna say, oh, we have good customer service. No, it's an actual experience. We're with their homeowner as long as they own that property. People have called us later, hey, I need a recommendation to to add a deck, I need a contractor, I need an HVAC person. And we will give you someone that we know, like, and trust. If we don't have an answer, I'll tell you, I don't have an answer. I'm not gonna BS anybody. If someone gets on our bad list, they come off the list and I don't give them out anymore. So people that we refer out to you as trusted sources have been people that we've used. So, any questions about a pre-listing inspection or how the process is? Yes, sir.
Yes, on the pre-listing inspection, do you require payment at the time of the inspection?
Yes.
I would assume. And then my other question is, do you have engineers on staff for houses that have shift or movement in the ground?
I do not have them on staff, but I have people that I reach out to.
But that would be a second inspection, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
What we're doing, a home inspection is a visual inspection, the day and time of our actual appearance. We do not take things apart. We don't have x-ray vision. If we did, we'd charge a lot more for our inspections. We do have trusted sources. Just this past Tuesday, we had G3 contract for a home to do a crawl space inspection where a body physically couldn't get under the home. And they take a robot. Once they do an elevation survey of the first floor with all their technical equipment, it's $1,000 expense, it's not cheap. But if you can't get under the house and the house is 102 years old and you wanna know what's under there, having a robot go under there is well worth your investment as a buyer.
Right, and also the engineers that we have, the reason it is another inspection, because they're not just going to say, oh yeah, there's something wrong. They're going and identifying it and say, this is what needs to be done to repair it correctly. So they're putting a little, it's more of an engineering duty than just an inspector. Because I can always go under a house and tell you the piers aren't correct, they're not on the foundation correctly, and we always recommend having an engineer come out and review it anyway, because they're gonna do more of the structural, which is beyond our scope that we can do.
Does that include going in the attic?
Yes. We go in the attic, on the roof whenever humanly possible, and we go under the house.
Okay.
And there's no additional fees or upcharges for homes over 50 years old or charges to go under the house. If we can get in under the house, we're under the house. We are on the roof.
What about condemned properties?
Condemned properties?
Well, they're a little bit tougher. We might do a consulting on that, which would be a little bit different. And that would be, you would call us and say, hey, here's what we need. Because we really can't do a full inspection on a condemned house, because we'd just be sitting there the whole time writing things up. Like for Rafi, some of the homes that.
That's a one pager that says destroy.
Tear down.
Tear down.
Tear down. No, what we do, like for the investment properties, we go into the house and we're not looking at the rooms, because we know you guys are gonna go through and remodel. You're gonna put new bathrooms in, new kitchen, new flooring and stuff like that. So our concentration, we look at the AC, we look at the structure, the roof, and the plumbing, so that we can determine if your contractor goes out and looks at something and says, okay, it needs this and this and this, well, they didn't see what we did. Some examples, we were in one house, we found polybutylate piping, and it wasn't in the budget. So Rafi had to adjust the budget for that. We had another house that the contractor didn't see that it had aluminum wiring. So there was an adjustment for that. So those are the kind of things that we're doing for them on the investment side, is so that when Rafi you guys put together your pro forma for the investor, say here's what it's gonna take, the last call you wanna make is, well, the contractor's in there, we found this is gonna cost another $15,000. Your return on investment went from 12%, now it's down to 5%, sorry. So that's what, that's the reason Rafi has us going in, so we can do that type of work on those houses, but that's on a, per basis, we have to price it on what we're getting into and how condemned it is. If it's something that's dangerous, then, yeah, I only have one inspector who's brave enough to go in some of those houses.
Does it matter if it's single family and multifamily?
No, we do investment properties. We like to think we specialize more on a lot of the investment properties. I think the largest one we've done is 20 units. We do commercial property as well. My background, I did 22 years in property management for multifamily apartment communities. So I'm very familiar with apartment communities.
So I know where the gray is coming from now.
Yeah, it's funny, yeah.
You survived?
You're surviving. If you can do property management for 22 years, I started off leasing apartments here in Tampa, and then when I got out of it, I was a regional vice president over 5 states. So, and had, I think, 5,000 units in my portfolio. I think the smallest property was like 200 units, and the biggest one was 5 something. So I'm very familiar with the property management side and.
Got a couple of questions. I
Yes.
mean, to interrupt you. So for Section 8, do we have any type of special type of inspection for Section 8 housing?
The FHA HUD, the HUD inspections is.
Well, you mean for if they to approve for vouchers
Let's say
or?
you wanna buy a property, but I wanna go to you since you're the expert and say, okay, would this property be okay for Section 8?
We have a report that we can do is we have the FHA checklist
Okay,
and the minimum standards checklist.
okay.
So we can go through that, all my inspectors, we have the checklist, they can go through and they would check, off, that, I think it's a $225.
It's $225.
It's
and
not,
if
it's not our
anyone
full
wants to-
inspection like you normally see, we just go through and
You
go
know what I'm
through the
referring
checklist.
to, Section 8
Yeah,
housing?
yeah,
Okay.
well, it's FHA, yeah.
It's the same.
It's the same thing, FHA, it's their rules that they have to. Now, we also can do, add on to top of that, since you are gonna get vouchers and in the houses, if it's older than 1978, I think it's a lead-based paint. We can go in and sometimes you need to, come back to, Section 8, when you're, especially a brand-new house you're putting onto them, you need to give them, a lead certification, that there's no lead paint in the house. We can also do the lead-based paint testing.
Okay, and how much is the testing more or less? I know it's expensive.
Mary, how much is the testing?
700?
Oh, for lead-based paint?
Uh-huh.
No, we do it right on site. We have swabs, that we can do, they're 3M swabs, FHA accepts them. 2 years ago, or I think we did,
Oh, okay,
we did
that's
2
good.
Bradenton housing authorities and for their REACT survey, while they were preparing for that, and
Oh, good.
it
I'll
passed.
send you the price
Last
list.
time I did it was like $1,000, I think.
Well,
No.
That was
that's,
a while ago. That was
yeah,
a-
that's where they peel the
They
paint,
do
send it
paint,
to
send it
the lab.
and all of that.
Yeah.
But you don't
they-
have to do that anymore?
You don't have to, there's a
Oh, okay.
3M swab that can be done,
Oh, okay.
and that FHA will approve that.
Okay,
as
and in
long as
terms
you
of
document it.
Section 8, real quick, what are the things that they're looking for? I get this question a lot, like, would this property qualify for Section 8? I know the windows is a big
Section
one.
8, windows, all the windows have to operate. You
And lock
can,
too, right?
correct, and you cannot, okay, look, I did Section 8, I had Section 8 housing in, when I did property management. So some of it, like a bedroom, a window cannot, if they closed in a porch and that was where the window went out from a bedroom, that is no longer can be considered a bedroom because the window goes into a screened-in porch or a sunroom now.
Okay, so the bedroom.
It has to go to the exterior, so if it's a 4-bedroom and one of them, they closed in a porch and made it into a screen or like a sunroom, that you now have a 3-bedroom, because that one is not allowed to be a 4. Peeling paint is a huge no-no, that's usually the biggest. A roof has to have, I think, a minimum of 3 years left of life.
3 years? Oh.
Mhm.
Okay.
Is it the same FHA standards list?
Yeah,
Like, a
it's-
cell tower can't be within, 200 feet.
No,
Crawl
that's,
space?
that's for rehab work. But we have a whole list of different things, but those are the biggest that the FHA, when they come out, they see peeling paint, a bad roof, and they see a windows that do not open or go into. The other thing is if they come in and do an inspection, cable wires, because we found that a lot, was cable wires across the bedroom, that's a tripping hazard.
What about air conditioning and heat?
No, as long as it's working, it's fine.
But any, you can't have leaks of.
Correct. And the other thing is, and it's weird, but a lot of people put the aluminum foil on if they have on the burners, on the stove.
You haven't seen weird yet.
A lot of them put the aluminum foil down. That is an FHA, because it's considered a hazard, it's a fire hazard.
Any kind of wire exposed, they don't want that too.
Correct, wires exposed, or you open up the electric panel and the knockouts are gone, and someone can stick their finger in, big no-no, they'll red flag it right away.
Any sharp things outside too, they check around, they see sharp things, remove that too.
Typically, when it's a bungalow or a house that is older than 70, I'd say don't even try it. Have you seen frame homes getting approved for?
I really don't, get into that, but if they ask us, I mean, like the Bradenton Housing Authority, that
The
thing
floors
is
have to be
I
correct.
think built in the early 70s. But it had to be before 78, cause I had to go in and do the lead-based paint testing for it. I think it was 120 some units we did we had to go in every single unit and test.
Got it, got it.
This isn't Section 8, but this is FHA. Everything I have is electronic. We can teach on a lot of different classes, but that's an FHA checklist.
So pretty much what you're saying that it's the same thing for FHA, it's the same as Section 8.
Right, 'cause-
So we can use this as a
Well,
guide.
FHA is oversees
It's the same
Section 8.
Yeah.
It's still, it's Section 8, it's just the housing authorities have to follow the Federal Housing Authority, and those are the standards by Federal Housing Authority.
There
Awesome,
you go.
guys, we're running out of time. Any last minute questions? For-
Time is of the essence with your contract. So if you have short inspection windows, like 3 days, 5 days, we get texts and emails all the time saying, hey, I need to get this scheduled. Especially people we know, we've done business with, we trust you, we know that you're not gonna like block a time and not follow through. We get calls all the time, 3-5 day inspection windows because they're winning the bid to get that house under contract for their buyer. Let us know, we can get it done. Again, the pre-listing inspection, depending on which side of the equation you're on, we'll make sure that that period doesn't get extended because you have to price things out.
And Rafi, I know you said, did you still want people to go through your
Yes.
dashboard?
Yes,
So,
yes.
Rafi has a dashboard, real estate dashboard, where you can go in and book your inspections there.
We'll give you access later.
And if anyone wants a really good book to read, if you wanna take a picture of this, it's called Miracle Morning Millionaires. What the Wealthy Do Before 8 a.m. Will Make You Rich. This is a have you read it?
No, I gotta get up here, bro.
Yeah, that's
Yes, you
one
have
of
to get up at 5 o'clock, go take a cold shower.
Wait,
This-
that's what I did. Let's put the miracle.
This can change your world. This can change your life. It really can. And we've got a whole library of books like this that'll do that for you. And just call us anytime.
Awesome. Let's
That's
give
it.
let's give a big applause to
Can I
Ryan
see
Property
it?
Okay.
Oh, you're gonna do,
Yep,
you're
yep.
gonna do this first.
So, instead of going there, can you hear me? Yeah. So a couple of updates from my side. In terms of PM, probably you have noticed that I'm much more involved into it. Leo was an amazing help and consultant during these 3-4 months. Thank you very much. He's moving on to
Let's give him a big applause.
moving on to conquer the commercial real estate arena, so that's great. And then we have, so basically I'm taking over for what he was doing before. I feel the pain. So working on it, so if you see a little bit of a slower response, it's because every time I see an email regarding rents, I have to go to a folio, help center, find how to do it, and then come back, all that kind of stuff. So, we'll come back in a year and see how much great.
You look like me, Rafi.
The great thing is that we have a new person that's handling the most crazy driven process, which is the work orders, and that's Veronica Rosario. She started last week. Just to give you a perspective of how good she is, we had at one point 106 work orders pending. That's 106 tenants that were going crazy because stuff was not done. In a week, today we are at
55.
55.
Wow, good job.
So, welcome.
Thank you.
Please don't go anywhere.
I like the task in front
We
of me,
need you,
so-
we need you. So again, you see that reshuffle. We're going as much as possible to assist you in terms of what you need from the PM perspective. I mean, just be patient, especially this month, until I kind of get it back. So that's one. Number 2. Which was number 2? Okay. Calendly. A lot of you have asked me about it. And those of you that don't know, it's an awesome app that basically gives you the ability to set up meetings, but you picking which times you want that meeting. I'm sure you have had that email exchange where you go, hey Hank, let's meet, of course. Monday is good for you? Nah. Okay, he says Tuesday. I can't Tuesday. Wednesday. Oh yeah, both can Wednesday. 9 a.m. No, I cannot do it 9 a.m. 3 p.m. Neither. Thursday. Oh, I'm on vacation. That's being probably 6, 7 emails that go back and forth. With this app, you set up your availability, and you go, you know what? I can't meet Tuesdays at a time, Wednesday, and I send that link, and the person then picks their best time for them, when it's actually the best time for you. Okay? You can create different type of events. For example, I have a Greystone call. So when I send you the one that I sent today to someone, it was a Greystone call. So for calls, I have a different availability than for meetings, because meetings are going to be 30, 40 minutes. Calls, they better be less than 10, because if not, I'm going crazy. Okay? I can have completely different businesses. So I can have a Greystone type of event, and I can have, you know, an RCM consulting kind of event, and, you know, real estate commercial kind of event. You can play with that a lot. It's website too, so it's an awesome app, and it's not that expensive.
Who's using it
So,
right now?
I
Who's
know,
using it right now?
I know that some of you are using it. If you have any questions on that, please reach out to me, and I can.
The only thing I want to add about calendar,
Yeah.
if you don't mind, is like sometimes it costs you to find out information from a client. Typically, you have to have some sort of website with a form, or have a landing page with a form. This is an easy way to create a form through your calendar.
Yeah, you can basically, the way I use it, and I'm going to use BNI as an example. So I have a BNI one-to-one. We meet, you know, we try to meet as much as possible. It's a networking event, so I need information about Hank. So in that invite, I say, hey, no, here's my time, but before you actually book time in my calendar, I need to know what's your preferred referral. Agents and da da da. Okay, what do you do outside work? Man, I do this and that. So when I'm going to meet with him, guess what? I have my icebreaker, because both of us like basketball, right? So immediately I go that, and not only that, I already know what's his preferred referral, right? So I go to the meeting knowing, okay, do I know agents? Do I know this or that? So much more productive meeting between him and I, because I have that. You can use it in different ways. Hey, you know, when are you looking to buy a house? Within the next 3 to 6 months, right? So you can ask up to 3 questions of whatever you want, okay? So it's a great tool. I don't want to take more time, but if you're interested in it, just let me know. Again, you've seen it in action with Yuri, setting up meeting.
And I think that's
and
one
then
of the
we'll go from
reasons he's been like top networker, right? In BNI.
Yeah, I think you won this morning, didn't you?
Yeah, the most referrals and the
Most referrals.
one-to-ones, yeah. All that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then, who has not received their business cards or name tags? I know name tags, I'm missing name tags, right? That's the one that I'm missing the most. Right?
Billy, yours are in the room.
Oh, there's a couple of them there. So I think the last batch that I created business cards, I'm missing name tags, right? You were kind of the last. Okay,
Can you raise your hands again so I can write
You know
it
what?
down?
Office key, so we have to find out if we can do it or not, because I know they charge for that. So again, the last batch of like 6 people, I need to order the name tags there. Any questions for me besides what I've talked about? I know every time I see my name in the groups, sometimes I cannot reply right away because I have like 150 groups. But
How many pounds you're losing?
7 so far. I lost in December. Can you? I don't know how, but I did lose in December.
I think you're off. You want to go ahead and talk about
Your stuff.
paperless pipeline real
Yeah.
quick?
Well, first wanted to start off with the video that we always start off our meetings with to give you guys a little bit more information on what Greystone Investment Group is. So we'll start off with this quick 3-minute video and then I'll jump in.
Hello, my name is Jorge Vasquez, CEO of Greystone Investment Group. Our goal at Greystone is to help investors build wealth by helping them build a portfolio of rental properties.
Hi, I'm Stephanie with Greystone Investment Group. My position here at Greystone Investment Group is managing all 3 departments: Greystone Development, Greystone Investment Group, and Greystone Real Estate. We do the whole turnkey process for our investors, from finding the property to renovating it and managing it for them.
My name is Jessica
Skip that
Bridges.
part.
I'm the property manager here at Greystone Real Estate. We handle everything from
You got long
getting
hair.
property marketed, maintenance, renovation,
Oh,
renovations, 100% everything. Greystone Real Estate manages properties all over the Tampa Bay area. We manage properties in Pasco, Hernando, Hillsborough, Polk, and Pinellas. We let owners know what the best area is to rent to maximize their investment.
Hi, my name is Rafael Castro. Most people know me as Raf. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Greystone Investment Group. I'm in charge basically you understand how we can help you maximize the profits in the real estate, long-term real estate. One of the main reasons to work with Greystone is that you have basically someone that is focusing on long-term investment. Tampa is a great market to invest in long-term rentals. We have a very vibrant economy, and that's key. You can have a great investment property, but if it's in a bad market, in a bad job market, then you're not going to have the right tenants. The other thing is that Tampa is a growing market. We have investment from high rollers like Bill Gates, Bill Pennick, and our development. The downtown area, the Channel Side area. The last one is the affordability. You see some cities, Miami, New York, California, where we pay millions of dollars for property. We have some clients that have sold properties in California. One, they come here and they can buy 3 or 4.
我需要一家专业的公司来帮我去打理这些保障，安排所有的一切。Greystone 它可以帮我去找很多房子，然后也可以帮我去打理，去进行所有一切的交易的过程。结果非常好，然后他们人也是非常专业，然后所有的事情呢都是考虑到投资者怎么样去获更大的利益。
So guys, as you can tell, we have an awesome group of people here at Greystone Investment Group. Dedicated you, you're the next person that's going to become very wealthy investing in real estate, and we cannot wait to help you get to that goal. So contact us today at Greystone Investment Group. You can fill out an investment profile at the end of this page. We look forward.
Very cool. YouTube,
Awesome. So I first wanted to start off with that first, is we have a lot of new agents that have came on board with us, and I just wanted to mention that real quick. We have Norma that just joined us as well. So welcome to Greystone. We also have Marcos. I'm sorry. We also have Juan. Welcome. And we have John. Even though John is part of our acquisitions department, but he got his license. So congratulations. And we also have Ligia, welcome. And Jeff, welcome on board. And Michael. And Jorge. And Isabel is a realtor, but he's now getting more involved with real estate now, so welcome on board. Awesome. So to not take too much of you guys' time, I do want to thank you guys for using Paperless Pipeline. I know every meeting I always mention Paperless Pipeline, because that is the only way you guys are going to get paid your commission. Most of you guys should already have your username and password, but if you guys don't have that, please let me know. For your first transaction, as you know, we strongly encourage you guys to use it, because again, in case we get audited, that's what we actually use. If you guys need help on how to use it, there is a tutorial on how to use it through YouTube, but it's pretty straightforward. But at the end, towards the end of our meeting, just let me know who doesn't have Paperless Pipeline so I can give you guys access to that, okay? Second on my list is open houses. I know there's been a lot of newer agents that has asked me, how do I do an open house? Who can I work with to do an open house with? Right now, we do have a lot of properties in the pipeline that are for sale. The house doesn't have to actually be yours for you to actually do an open house. You're more than welcome to, especially why we like to do these quarterly meetings is so you guys can actually put a face with the name, because a lot of us are walking in and out once a month meeting with Jorge. At least so you guys can work together and do an open house. I did one, Osvaldo helped me with an open house. We had a successful open house. I'm not sure who else did one with me, but it's just for you to interact with your colleagues and see who needs help or who can do an open house. That is a great way to generate sellers leads and buyers leads. That's pretty much it. Any questions for me?
Any questions? Thank you,
Awesome.
Stephanie. Appreciate it. Okay, I'm gonna give my time It looks like I feel like I'm in the Senate or something. I'm gonna give my
I'm
time.
yielding my time to.
Giving my time.
Yielding my time.
Yielding my time to Viral, because we're running out of time, and he's got some exciting news about some stuff that we're doing new now.
Just acknowledge
Go for
the
it.
gentleman.
Hello everybody, I'm Viral. From the last month or so, we started this new idea of doing lease option properties. So the properties that John is getting under contract, we are trying to find lease option tenant buyers for them. And the advantage of that whole process for us as investors or as people who are working with investors is that the cash on cash return increases drastically. So it's a positive thing for everybody. In terms of a commission, if you find a lease option tenant buyer, it's 25% of the down payment, so that's a big advantage. And in terms of assigning it to an investor, the deal is so much better that it just makes a lot more sense. In terms of everybody in this room, everybody has joined this company largely because they were interested in real estate investing and working in investors. Jorge has come up with an idea that we can all be investors in a lot of these properties with a lot less risk. So if we have a lease option tenant buyer, the biggest advantage is any repairs that are needed on the property is the responsibility of the tenant. It's not your responsibility. Anything that happens is his responsibility. And he puts a fat down payment right up front to guarantee that he's going to buy. If he doesn't buy, he forfeits it. So it's a win-win all around. Jorge has come up with a product, which if you want to say, you can say, or if you want me to say, I can say. He's offering 90% lending on properties which are lease option. It's interest only. And
No payments.
no payments.
Until
This is
the
an
person
option
buys the
which
property.
is only for people in this room or people who are working with Greystone closely. It's for people who see a property, they like the property, we have a lease option tenant buyer for the property, you don't want to take any risk, you know for a fact who's going to buy it at a later date. It makes so much sense. Stephanie has jumped the gun and she's gone ahead and bought her first property with that. Lease option is a whole new animal. There will be lots of questions that you will have about it. I put out a training video on the GIG Brokers Group just to make sure that I'm covering all my bases. If you have any other questions about any of these deals that you've come across on the Brokers Group, or if you're seeing it on our website, if you have any specific questions about it, you can go ahead and ask me about them.
I want to add a couple of things, if you don't
Yes.
mind. A lot of people are going to say, well, what, I mean, I've seen other people do it. What's the benefit of doing it with Greystone? Well, the simple fact that we have some stuff that other people don't have. First of all is in-house lending, up to 90%. This lending, you can do it without no payments for 2 years. So you can do the lease option, sell the property for $20,000, $30,000 more, go negative on the interest a month because you make no payments, let that person take care of that debt at the end. But in the meantime, you can receive that cash flow for 2 years, or you can take that money and invest it on the next property. And your liability a month is 0. And all you have to do is put 10%. It's a no-brainer. You have a question?
What's the interest rate?
The interest rate it starts at 8 to 11%, depending on how long you're gonna do it.
But it's interest only. It's not
It's interest only.
principal plus interest. So your monthly payments, despite the fact that it's 8 or 9%, is going to be lower than if you go to a bank.
Go ahead, Phil.
These houses, are they in good condition, or do they need work? And then my second question is, if they're in good condition, how close to the retail price are you paying, or are you being able to get them at a discount
So
to
typically,
allow for those 2 years of interest?
we're gonna go for the properties that have the least rehab possible.
Least amount of work, right?
But
Makes sense.
regardless, even if it's $10,000-$15,000, that's the lease option buyer is taking it as
responsibility.
Yeah,
It's a
rent
work
to
for
own.
equity lease option tenant buyer. It gets factored into his price.
So they're gonna
work
take care
for
of that.
equity.
But at the same time, you don't wanna have a huge rehab, that's not gonna work. But if
Yeah.
it's something under 10, 15, it should work, no problem. And and typically, these properties will have enough equity that they'll have no issues doing, buying the property 2 years from now and appraising for that price, no problem.
And this is based on the credit, or how that works like a hard money, or how that works?
You're talking about the lending, or you're talking about the lease option tenant buyer?
Lending.
The lending.
The lending could care less who you are at all.
Asset-based.
It's asset-based 100%. So as long as the property makes sense, I'm the underwriter, so as long as I create the CMA and it makes sense, I don't wanna risk my client's money, but at the same time, I could be more flexible than most banks out there. So does
But
that make
that's,
sense?
yeah, but that has to be LLC or has to be directly with the person,
Typically, the lender's gonna require an LLC,
LLC, and insurance, of course, right?
And one of the main reasons we're able to offer this, because he doesn't offer this to anyone, is the fact that it's Grayson agents that I monitor, that I make sure I'll whip your butt if you don't pay, that he feels comfortable with us doing this for the agents. Go ahead.
Who's gonna be responsible for paying the taxes and insurance during that 2-year period?
It'll be the homeowner. It'll be the person who owns the property. If
Yeah,
you're
the
buying
owner.
it, it's your responsibility to pay the taxes and insurance.
Correct.
So the person leasing it?
No, the property owner.
Property owner. So
Property
so
owner.
I go in to buy a property.
You would be
Yes.
Okay,
responsible.
even though I'm not making any payments because it's being deferred.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, I still, at the end of the
Taxes
year,
and
I still
insurance.
have to pay the
Yeah.
taxes. and
Absolutely.
Yes.
insurance.
And I will question that could be negotiable too.
Hmm.
You could tell the tenant, hey, you paid the taxes a year, I've seen it on a lease option before.
Yeah, and you
That's
kind of
negotiable.
adjust it. There are many variables there. Usually it's a game on how much equity the tenant buyer is getting versus what the rent he's paying. That's where the game is. Usually what will happen with a lease option tenant buyer is, as the landlord, you're obviously trying to make the most amount of money out of it. But usually if the rent amount is very close to the monthly mortgage that he will pay as an FHA buyer, you can probably try telling him, hey, why don't you pay the taxes and insurance? Because guess what, within 2 years once you buy, you're gonna make this exact amount of payment anyway. So you can accept that as a deficit, or you could increase your rent by that amount. It's your choice.
Are you looking for these properties in just Hillsborough County or other counties?
All 7, 8 counties.
All counties around us.
All counties.
All counties around us. Hillsborough, Pasco, Hernando, Polk, Pinellas, Citrus.
But has to be, like, the property has to be, sold by Grayson, right? So if, for example, I see a property and I like that property and I wanna get that property, can I will,
No.
no?
No.
Okay.
It has to be
So
a
it has
property
to be
which,
your
it has to have
make
come through
money.
acquisitions. It has to have come through acquisitions.
Also, point out the fact about the rehab, if it's 10 or more.
So there is, John is asking about the rehab. In case, let's say it's an extensive rehab, okay? It's more than $20,000. And your tenant buyer is obviously not gonna be able to do that much. So, okay, you can go ahead and do 10, 10, 15 and tell him, okay, the last 5 you handle. And you build equity with it. It's just a case of how you adjust the price with your end buyer, which is the tenant buyer. He has to make a little bit of money by doing the sweat equity. That's the whole game. I've seen people who lease auctioned the property as the tenant buyer, and the property needs $40,000 in work, and it still works. Because he's a contractor kind of guy himself, he's gonna put in his own time, he just has to purchase materials. So he's building equity in the house as he buys it. The advantage for the lease option tenant buyer, let's take Manor for example. He's going to have a fixed price as his purchase price, regardless of how much the property appreciates over the next 2 years. So if he's signing a lease option contract with you at $105,000, and let's say it needs $5,000 in rehab, if the property is projected to go up by 7% over the next year, which means it's going to be worth about $112,000, $113,000, for him, the purchase price is stuck at $105,000. Which means when he goes to buy a loan, there's a good chance he can say, hey, I've got already 20% equity in the property. It's a no-brainer for him. There's no question about it.
Do you guys get it? Get it? Really get it? I mean, you could tell somebody, with $50,000, $60,000 could buy 4 or 5 homes if they do it the right way. So it's a huge opportunity for you guys as agents to be investors as well.
I wanted to add one point to that. Typically, when we are sending out circulator reports to our investors, we are typically showing reports where the investor makes 10% cash on cash return. This is the margin which most of our investors are looking for. When you're going to do lease option deals with financing, that number looks much higher than 10%. It's closer to 20%, 25%, 30%. I have seen, and I've prepared a lease option agreement just like that one. Cash on cash return is 77%. It's insane. Those kinds of numbers are mind-boggling numbers. That kind of number, it's a no-brainer. Which bank is ever going to give you 77% on your money in 1 year?
You think about it, for those of you that deal with buyers and tenants, where do you get the most leads? tenants, hundreds of them. So it's all about educating those tenants, their options. They can buy now, they might not be able to buy 3 or 4 years from now. Maybe you wanna do a lease for 4 or 5 years, but you're actually helping them get into ownership. Don't forget that. Most of these tenants are clueless on how do they have to do to get their first property, so that's what you're doing, helping them, pretty much. It's a win-win situation.
And for a tenant to build equity in a house without buying a house, I cannot tell you how big a thing that is. Have you ever bought a house, without buying the house, you're building equity in the house? You're renting, but you're building equity. If the price is going up, you're making money. For them, it's a no-brainer. For the investor, it's a no-brainer.
Awesome.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Real. Thank you very much. Pretty much we're gonna wrap up the meeting unless there's anything else, any other questions? Go ahead.
I always think sometimes the best way to hire people is word of mouth. Currently, we are looking to add another home inspector to our team. So if you know someone who has a great personality, who can develop relationships with agents, they don't need to have experience in construction or anything, we can train them. Our typical person once the first year of training's done, in their second year, they're probably making anywhere from 50 to 60,000 a year with us. And we also need a really good marketing person.
I just lost 2 agents when you said that.
I was gonna give you my card just now.
Thank you.
We're looking for a growth coordinator, someone who can do marketing, get paid for it.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right, before we wrap up, I want to thank Hank and Mary. Mary, thank you so much for joining us. If you guys have any questions or anything you guys want to ask Jorge, myself, or all, or Hank and his wife after the meeting, feel free. Our next meeting is March 12th. It's a Thursday at 5:30. And I am looking to get together, all of us, as a team outing. I know I keep mentioning it, but as time goes on, we keep expanding, we get bigger and bigger. So through the group of Ask Stephanie, if you guys want to throw some ideas as to what we can do for our next outing, so we can get out of the office and get to know each other a little more, that would be great. Okay? I appreciate everyone for taking time to come in today, and have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you for the time, guys.
I think Mary put them up there.
Yeah, I got a
I think Mary's card's right there. Why, what? I don't do it
Pero hay 3 que son open house a las 11. A las 11 y a la 1.
This guy super qualification. 10 minutes
Eso que pasa es mi portafolio ya no
This is the
Yeah, this is our company. So this is us, and this is probably Mary's card.
Oh, okay, this is one, okay.
So Mary and I, we own the company, and like I
Okay.
said, we got 5 inspectors, 2 office people, and we're hiring one. We're trying to expand. Last year we did 1,360 inspections. We're trying to get up to 2,000.
You're like 1 to 5. I'm here. 1 or 2 to 5. Yes, I'm here. Oh, you mean afterward? You go to the gym? No, it's not. Depends on the day. Just let me know. Yeah, off the West Hillsborough. My card is one of the owners. We started it all. To get over there, trying to get back to Jim. No, I've only been over that one,
So it's very, very young hours in North Area.
I know Tony. Tony was a manager Lexington years ago. And then he got into business operations. Just depends on the schedule. So just let me know. Depends on my schedule. Just text me and let me know. If not, come into the office and I'm making calls. Monday, Friday. I've never heard of it. If you're interested, ask Jorge and see if he can join the group, because usually, you have to make a certain amount of calls each week in order to qualify. Anyone's motivated people, some people have gotten picked off the team because they were see you at a B&I meeting in a couple of weeks. Filling in for that.
Okay. Yeah, we're part of the higher builder. Like-minded, all inspection companies. So we have
Guys, want to take a picture outside? Take a picture. I gotta go. I might have a home inspector for you. He had his license up in Atlanta, and he's asking me if he needs like a reciprocity over here. I don't really know, but he wants to get into it. He's looking to get into it. And I want to do it later in the year, probably mid-year.
We went by way of Denver, Colorado, and my daughter.
Pretty famous for you, right?
That would be my ideal goal. For evening. It depends on the situation halfway through the year, because because my idea would be to acquire properties, get some of my own commercial large-scale properties, 50 to 250 unit properties for some of my investors and new homes.
My background, I know market. Little single family, and we have 467 units. Where the homes were originally built in the 30s. The whole place was
Picture time.
Yeah, let me get your card again.
I give you Mary's, I didn't bring Mary's, but.
I'll let him know to talk to you.
Yeah, we just hired somebody and I need to get two.
I mean, he's a locksmith by trade right now, but he's gotten certified as a home inspector, so he might need some training and things of that nature.
My training, the training, depending on the person, usually, my training's about 11 weeks program.
He's pretty quick. Hard to learn, but yeah.
In the last one, so it will be 3 months.
You got everything in here? Except my job.
Because I think they don't get any pay when they buy a house, because they sell in the house.
At a very high price. So what if the house doesn't appear for that value?
I guess they have some algorithm.
Who's facing? Hank, Mary, picture.
You? Oh, yeah. Grab some snacks.
You take one picture on one side.
But what if the house doesn't appear for that value? For some reason.
They have to put the cash.
Girl, explain her over here.
They have to, they have to.
The tenant has to assume the risk.
They have to.
He has to cover the difference.
Yes. That's right.
I don't know if you selfie all fit here. We'll find out. We'll find out. You have to find a way. Find a way. Find a way. Find a way. La subo ahora mismo la subo a Facebook así.
A mí no me importa.
Yo dejé de...
Si eso irá plata, me importaba, pero no.
You're welcome. Thanks for letting us come in.
Awesome. Well, awesome job, her.
Come on now.
I'll give you a credit, I'll give you a credit. Awesome. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, yeah, we're going to create a unique password so that we can all use that. And then I'll go with them. I think you sent me like how to deal with the dashboard. Yeah.
And the
I think you sent me
dashboard,
something.
there's videos, yeah, we can do.
Oh, you have the video, even better. Send me the video.
Mary, do we have a video on how to use the dashboard?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Send it to me. Send it to me.
I'll send it to you in a minute.
Yeah, because that way,
This is for your kitchen. Do you have a kitchen?
at home, yeah, of course I have a kitchen.
Is this your office?
It's a
Yeah.
executive office.
It's a shared office,
Oh,
yeah.
then you guys better
So
keep.
that goes home. That goes home. I'm gonna take one, I'm gonna take one.
Yes.
That way you can close it better.
So Rafi, when are you gonna cook for me?
Huh?
When are you gonna bring some, or have your brother?